Welcome to Elite Expert Insider Podcast, where we will inspire, motivate, and educate entrepreneurs, innovators, and growth seekers. Brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, making the best and brightest in the industry #1 best-selling authors. 80% of people say they want to write a book. We're assuming that's the same for you. If so, contact us at www.eliteonlinepublishing.com and make your book a reality. Hi, everyone. Melanie Johnson, along with my partner, Jen Foster. How you doing, Jen?
Hey, guys.
All right. If you've been curious about podcasting, how to make money with a podcast, how to brand yourself with a podcast, I'll get it out. You've come to the right place today. So we have Steve Woessner here. He wrote the book, Profitable Podcasting. He has been doing this. He's an expert at it. He's going to fill us in on all the ways that you can leverage a podcast to make money. And it's not just from the show, FYI. So, but first, we want to remind you to subscribe to our podcast. Make sure you hit that button, subscribe to us. And we want you to leave us a review. Tell us what you think, how we can serve you better. If there's certain guests you'd love to have on, let us know, because we would love to hear from you. And remember, Jen and I own Elite Online Publishing, and we would love the opportunity to talk to you about publishing your book to see if you're a good fit for us and make you a #1 bestseller. So tell us, Stephen, we are so glad to have you here today. We love podcasting. We've been podcasting for 4 years now. So we can't wait to dive into this and talk more and learn more and get some more tips even for us as well as our audience today.
Well, first off, thanks very much for the invitation to join you. I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. So in any way, shape, or form that is helpful to your audience, please know I'm game for that. So fire away.
Great. Well, first, Stephen, tell us a little bit about how you got into podcasting, what your background is, and how long you've been doing this.
Well, I would love to say that it was some sort of brilliant strategy, Jen, but the reality is it was not. It was pretty messy. And the reason being is because in the spring of 2015, our business then was completely different than our business today. So I own a company called Predictive ROI, and we came back from visiting one of our largest client at the time. And that meeting didn't go so well. And so we ended up losing that client. So here we were in May of 2015. We were overstaffed for the amount of revenue that we had. So I had some difficult decisions to make. Either I let go some of the team members that I had, or we had to do something drastically different with respect to business development. So it was one Sunday afternoon in May of 2015 that I'm sitting at my dining room table and I'm looking out, at my daughter playing in the park, in the neighborhood, and thinking, gosh, it's really nice and calm out there, but I was really feeling the chaos inside. And so I fired off an email to my team and I said, look, we've owned the onwardnation.com domain for like 12 months. Now we're going to do something with it. We're going to launch a daily show. We're going to call it Onward Nation. I'm going to interview the very best business owners that I can. And we're going to build an audience around that. And hopefully somebody in that audience is going to hear it, feel inspired. They're going to pick up the phone and they're going to call Predictive ROI to do their digital marketing. That was the extent of the strategy. Clearly that's not a strategy. But that was the extent of it. And we're going to do it in 30 days or less. And we knew nothing about podcasting at the time. Credit to my team. We did it. And 30 days later, we launched a daily show. And then a couple months after that, praise God, one of our guests said, hey, could you do that for me? And I'm like, do what for you? He's like, seriously, could you build me a podcast? Your podcast's awesome. Could you do it for me? So we did it for him. And then we got the business development process going where we started doing that for more guests. And then holy bananas, our business completely changed as a result.
Awesome. So now your digital marketing company includes podcast and podcast marketing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it absolutely includes podcasts. It's a big chunk of what we do. But primarily we're helping business owners build their thought leadership, just like you guys do. Help them build their thought leadership and then monetize that content. Oftentimes that's in form of a podcast. Sometimes it's video. Sometimes it's blog content. Sometimes it's something else. But how does a business owner get super, super intentional about his or her thought leadership? And then how do they then monetize that content? Maybe it's a book deal. Maybe it's speaking. Maybe it's sponsorship. Maybe it's direct client acquisition. So as you well know, there's many, many different forms to be able to monetize their thought leadership. And really, that's what we specialize in today.
So walk us through the process. A client comes to you, they want to start a podcast, kind of ABC, what should they do? Not the mechanics of, hey, you need to get this kind of camera or lighting or whatever for it or microphone, but more or less I want to start it, I don't know what to do, and my focus of it, and then how to monetize it.
Okay, so it starts foundationally with, you mentioned in the intro whether or not somebody's going to be a good fit for your publishing company. Similar type of thing. We want to make sure that we're the right fit for somebody and vice versa. And that starts with having a conversation around that client or prospective client in this scenario, their point of view. Do they have one? Is it clear? Is it distinct? Is it maybe potentially provocative? I don't mean offensive, but provocative, where an audience is going to say, I want to learn a little bit more about what Jen just said there. That's intriguing. That's interesting. That's something different than what I've heard before. Like, do they have a point of view that we can just like slam down into the dirt and plant a flag around?
Right.
And if yes, awesome. If we have to help a business owner establish their point of view, that becomes very, very difficult, because then it's more like building their business as opposed to actually establishing a thought leadership position around their point of view. So that's the first thing. Mm-hmm. The second thing is, do they have a successful business with an actual value ladder already intact? Now, we can tweak it and we can adjust it and we can help them work on the ascension and all of that, but do they have a core business with a value ladder? And then third, do they have a clear niche? Because anytime a business owner says to me, oh, our service offering can be for anybody.
Yeah.
We run in terror, because that is not a good niche, and not everybody's service can be applied to the millions and the masses. It should be really niched. And then if those three criteria are met, then awesome.
Yeah. It's important to talk about the niche, because a lot of times people will say the same thing for authors. What's your book going to be about? Who's your reader? Oh, anyone can read it. It's for everybody. It's and no one's going to read it, because you're not targeting and speaking to that one person. And that's the same with a podcast. If you're not speaking to that one person, then you're not going to get anybody to come and listen to your podcast. So you could have a weight loss podcast that's for everybody, but no one's going to listen to it. So instead, have a weight loss podcast that's just about intermittent fasting, or just about paleo diet, or whatever it is that you're going to talk about. Like you said, if you don't have a niche, you need to find one.
Exactly. I had a conversation the other day with a personal trainer, and I asked him, because we like to talk business from time to time, and I asked, who is your ideal client that you like to train? Well, anybody from high school students up to women who are wanting to lose weight, or men who are wanting to lose weight in their 50s and 60s. And I'm like, no, nope.
Totally different person.
Nope. There's a core group of people who you really mesh with. You might work out with a 16-year-old, and you might work out with a 65-year-old. Fine. But there's a group that are your ideal client. You need to find that group.
Yeah.
It's like you have to know that it's that business plan, business 101. So if you're already started your business, but you don't know who your client is, you don't know what your brand is, you need to go back to the drawing table and start with that. It's so important to have that identity so you can walk forward. So let's say they have that now. They know who they are. They know who their ideal client is. And now they're going to hit that button and start to go live. What does that look like, and what should they be doing then?
Yeah, so then the next piece is really figuring out the monetization strategy before any content is ever created. Meaning, we have a couple of kind of core strategies that we focus on. One is what we call the Trojan horse of sales, which means, could there be an opportunity to build out your Dream 25 prospects, the clients that you most love to serve, but for whatever reason, you just haven't received an at-bat yet? And then could we invite them onto the show, not to pitch them during the show, because that feels schmutzy, but like, can we create an experience downstream that might last a day or a decade to make sure that we have an at-bat with Jen at some point, or with Melanie at some point, recognizing it might be 3 years, 5 years, it might be 6 months, whatever the time period is. So the Trojan horse of sales, can we use our podcast or video series or whatever to open the door with the ideal prospect, and then create such an awesome experience downstream that it turns into biz dev without it ever feeling like biz dev. That's really important.
Yeah.
So the Trojan horse of sales is the first one. And then some clients will say, you know what, I don't want to sell to my guests. Don't want to do that. I don't want to build a Dream 25. I have absolutely no interest in that. I want to sell to my audience. So then we apply what we call the trident of sales, meaning that there's 3 different prongs to the strategy. The first is, how are we going to build the audience? So we need to build the audience, obviously, if you're going to sell to the audience. So then we've got some audience building strategies. Second is, how do we invite the right guests that the audience is going to care about, right? So that's really important too. And then third is, how are we going to then sell through to the audience, whether that's with our own products and services or by selling sponsorship through to the audience. Find third-party brands that also want to sell through to the same audience. So we spent a lot of time getting those 2 strategies or one of those strategies dialed in before we ever hit record.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I have a question about, for the first strategy. So you bring people on and you're going to sell downstream. You have to have some kind of system in place to keep that communication going. Do you have a system that you say, hey, now that they're on there, this is what you do, A, B, and C? And then I have a question about number 2, but let's start with that one.
Yes. In fact, we have 7 people on our team that specifically do just that. So you're right. There are definite intervals. There's the interval. So here's a few of the intervals, and then we can happy to slice it apart however you like. Mm-hmm. So the day before something airs, like let's say a podcast episode, the day before something airs, that guest, Dream 25 prospect in this scenario, is getting something from the show host. The day the episode does air, they're also getting something else. 30 days after the episode airs, they're getting something else. 60, 90, 120 intervals of 30 days, forever, they're getting something else. Now, the key is it's never, ever, ever, ever about the host, ever. It is always, 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 let's say that Jen in this example was our Dream 25 prospect and she was my guest on Onward Nation. She would receive something from us every 30 days as a gift or a highlight of the insights and wisdom and expertise that she shared with our audience. It's never about me, never about our audience, and it's always about her. And so then it never ever feels like salesy, because it isn't. It's about the contribution that she made to our audience. And then eventually there's an ask, or she may get all of this stuff from us for 3 years and say, oh my gosh, these guys are really freaking smart at what they do. I should ask them if they can help me with this challenge in my business. And that works too.
And so would some of those emails or communication be the stats of their podcast, of like how their episode went, or was that just maybe a one-time thing?
No, what we do is we highlight the insights and wisdom. Let's keep using you as the example. We highlight the insights and wisdom that you shared with our audience. So let's say that during an episode, like with all the episodes that you guys have recorded, in a typical half-hour conversation, if you have a good guest, there's probably 5 or 6, 7 maybe, what you would consider to be like really good golden nuggets. Well, that's 7 months of really great content right there. So we're going to celebrate Jen's golden nuggets back to Jen and say, Jen, when you said this, and we might include that in a quoted, or excuse me, in like a framed quote. And that you would put that up on your wall or on your desk. It's something beautiful. It doesn't have anything to do with us, but it's a quote from you. Or we might highlight Golden Nugget 3 and 4 in an ebook, Golden Nugget 5 in a Forbes.com article that I might write, or in our e-newsletter. Or we might take one of your quotes and transform it into video and then put it into our Monday motivational video series. So my point is that we're taking your stuff, your insights, your brilliance, your expertise that you took the time and effort to share with our audience, and we're slicing and dicing it and turning it into much more than just a podcast episode. And you're tagged in all of this stuff, or I'm sending it to you in your inbox and you're like, holy bananas, I spent 35 minutes with these people and look what they're doing with my stuff.
Right. Love that.
That's like the king. We're really big on repurposing your content to make a book. Yeah. And I just love how you've just taken this and just repurposed all this content to help your own company, right? It does that too. I mean, that's kind of secondary, but you're really shining a light on the person that was your guest on there. And then you're also repurposing it to make share it with the world and people who are interested in your products and services,
Yes.
which also makes you look great too, because you've got insight that really nobody else has, because it's not everyone's going to watch or listen to your podcast. People consume content in different ways on different platforms. So now you're giving them those little nuggets in different consumable bites that they can get. And then it references back to the podcast. If you want to hear more about it, then it promotes the podcast too. Brilliant.
And Jen gets tagged in all of that in that scenario, right? She gets tagged in all of the social, everything. And so for months and months and months, her social's blowing up. And it's like, and not from an annoying way, but because we're sharing her stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just those touch points that everyone gets to see, not just the person you interviewed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's excellent.
Okay, what about the person who's starting out their podcast? And this is kind of with number 2, that building the audience, getting the right guest list and all that stuff. And their goal is to have sponsors, paid sponsors in their podcast, but you don't have anybody seeing your podcast yet.
Right.
So I guess, do you have to have those eyeballs before you can sell any sponsorship? And what's the protocol to get sponsors?
Okay. So yes, no, sort of. And so what I mean by that is sponsors love niched podcasts. Sponsors love niched audiences, whether it's a podcast, video series, blog, whatever. Sponsors, what we're seeing is the real move toward niche, as opposed to, oh, you got to have 1 million downloads before I'll talk with you. We're seeing a real shift from that. So do you have to have a big audience? No. Do you have to have an audience? Yes. And does it have to be the right audience? Absolutely. So typically what we're seeing is we have seen some of our clients sell sponsorship or attract a sponsor, I should say, before their show has ever launched. We have seen that once or twice. It is not common. Typically what is more common is once somebody has 50 to 60 episodes in, like a true solid body of work, then they become sponsorable from the standpoint that they've been in it, they've been doing it, they've got a track record. But then they still have to have the right audience in order to kind of marry that up with the sponsor. So it does not have to be, tens of thousands. It can be less than that. Again, it can be niche and small, but it has to be the right audience.
That's great. And so are a lot of these things you're teaching us, are they inside the book that you have on Amazon podcast?
Well, so profitable podcasting, some of it is in there, but candidly, we've learned a lot in the last couple of years too, right? So we wrote the book, and it was based on years of experience, right? But this is a changing landscape. So is the book still a good resource? Absolutely. Some of the platforms have changed a little bit and that kind of stuff. The strategy is still solid. Some of the other things like the Dream 25 that Melanie was asking me about and kind of the things we do downstream, candidly, we've developed that in the last 18 months. So that is not in the book.
So tell us a little bit about how you build that nation of fans. So we're talking about how to do the podcast and how to get sponsors and all that, but how do we get those true fans and how do we get them to keep coming back?
Okay. So for somebody who is just launching, we have found the best way to build the initial audience and to make it a target audience is to be sure that the guests that you're inviting are indeed the right guests. Meaning that, and I'll get it that some of your listeners are probably think, yeah, but Stephen, there's no way I'm going to invite Gary Vaynerchuk on episode number 1. He's not going to say yes to me. And so you probably want to have maybe the first 5, maybe 10 guests, people who know you, people who like you, people who trust you, people who are quite frankly easy yeses, who are still going to deliver great content to your audience, so that they're relevant, but they're also easy yeses so you can get a body of work out there. And they're probably most likely to share your content right away, right? So you want to make sure that the guest list itself, that the guests are fitting a couple of criteria. One, are they prospects? Like this is beyond kind of the initial 5 or 10. Then going forward, are they prospects? If they're not prospects, are they people who can be helpful to your audience? And do you think they'd be willing to share with their social community? So you want to start attracting people into your guest list who have a social following, an email following, and so forth, and then make it very easy to make your content shareable so that they will share it. That is exactly how Onward Nation got into, I don't know, 60, 70 countries right off the bat because we invited an international guest list who was willing to share, and it grew like super fast because of that.
Yeah. I think that the right guest is definitely key because like you said, if they have a following already, you've got, double your following.
Yeah. And so, then maybe some of your listeners are probably thinking, yeah, but couldn't I accelerate that by actually doing a paid ad campaign? Maybe. And here's what I mean by that. I would encourage you to not necessarily promote an episode. I would encourage you to promote some of the golden nuggets from going back to the example with Jen. Let's say if I created an ebook around Jen's golden nuggets, that she shared during the episode, then I would promote that, through a paid ad campaign to build the lists and so forth. I would not necessarily advertise Jen's episode in the Facebook ad campaign or some other social platform. The reason being is we just recently did a test, small test, but we sent about 1,300 people to a Spotify channel page and a iTunes channel page for the same show, and it increased downloads a grand total of 0. And now we sent 1,300 people to the channel pages. And so what we learned through that experiment was people went and they were prepared to download an episode, but then they went and they thought, oh gosh, this feels like a lot of work. The episode with Melanie was 45 minutes. The episode with Jen was 35 minutes. That feels like work. I'll come back later. And it did not increase downloads. Mm-hmm. So don't spend paid money. That makes a lot of sense.
Hard-earned money.
Hard-earned money, yeah.
Don't do paid ad campaigns around the episodes. Do it on the assets and build your list.
I love that.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm. Great content. We can't thank you enough for coming today. You've been amazing. I want the new book. I want the updated book with the Dream 25, okay?
Well, tell us, Stu, where people can go to find you and where they can get more information.
Pretty easy, predictiveroi.com. You're certainly welcome to hit me up on LinkedIn as well. But all of our podcast episodes, our entire resource library, which is all free, all of it is there at Predictive ROI. So whatever you want, just request it and we'll send it right to you.
Great. Well, we'll put that link up on the bottom of the video for those watching on YouTube. And those that are listening, you can go to predictiveroi.com and get that information.
Yep. And speaking of, growing your podcast, so remember to subscribe to our podcast and share it. Like Stephen says, please share it to your social media. If you love an episode, share it out to everybody else. And if you have a book that you want to publish, let us know. Go to eliteonlinepublishing.com. There's a submission form right there that you can fill out your info and we can see if we're a good fit for you and you're a good fit for us. And also I'm going to do a shout out, 2 shout outs here. One, Jen and I just launched our Goal Planner, Goal Daily Planner. It's on Amazon. Look for it if you go to Goal Daily Planner Elite. It'll pop up. It's this wonderful book. We already have 5 reviews and it just launched this week. And we became number 1 in I think 5 or 6 categories, right, Jen?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Hot new release and hot number 1.
Yep. So it's trending. So if you're looking to get goals accomplished and be more organized and productive, grab that planner. And I have to give a quick shout out to my family. This is my family's business. I'm visiting in Michigan today, and Financial Designs and George B. Ford Agency. They let me use my dad's office. So I'm in his office right now, and it's pretty cool. I'm surrounded by all his pictures. So thanks for letting me come in here and sneak a little corner of the office and hang out. So have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week on the podcast. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
If you'd like to create the most powerful advertising tool for your business, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, where we will help you create, publish, and make your book a #1 bestseller and show you how to get new leads and more revenue for your business. If you'd like to check us out on our Facebook page, we have a free book for you as our gift. Just go and click free book. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment for our podcast. We would love to hear from you.